Hello everyone. Welcome you all to the TechGig webinar. Thank you for joining the session today. The topic of today's talk is Decoding Digital Transformation for a Large Enterprise in India. It will be a 1-hour session with around 40 to 45 minutes for the presentation and the remaining time for the Q&A. So if you have any questions, please send them to us using the Questions tab on the GoToWebinar control panel. I'm Sabha, the moderator of this session, and it gives me great pleasure to introduce you to our guest speaker today, Mr. Narinder Kumar, EVP Technology Services to the New. Narinder has more than a decade of experience in implementation of large-scale technology projects. It is under his leadership that To the New has delivered some commendable and highly successful large digital transformation projects. Narinder leads the technology team at To the New, which is premium global digital technology company that provides end-to-end product development services leveraging the power of experience design, cutting-edge engineering, and cloud to build disruptive web and mobile products to enable digital transformation for businesses. So without any further delay, let's begin the session. Over to you, Narinder.
Thank you very much, Sabha. Good afternoon, good morning, or good evening, everybody, whosoever has joined us. Warm welcome, and let's get started. As the topic for today's webinar is Decoding Digital Transformation in a Large Enterprise in India. This is broadly the agenda, which we would be talking for next 40-45 minutes, and we will follow it up with Q&A. Fortunately or unfortunately, because of the online medium, we would not be able to make it interactive all the time, but I would really appreciate all the questions, comments, and thoughts in the questions tab, and I would like to take them up as much as possible after the presentation is over. So the agenda is we would like to just start with setting the stage about digital transformation, and then we would dive deep into a case study, a project where we are still involved with HDFC Mutual Funds. We will talk about the challenges, our approach, how we were able to solve some of them, what is the current state, and what lies ahead of us in coming months. We would end up with what is our thought about the state of digital transformation at the moment in India and how it is impacting across industries of any size, scale, and domain across the entire country. And lastly, we will have Q&A round. So I'll just get started. Digital transformation in a nutshell. I suppose a lot of us are hearing digital transformation or DT. It is getting a lot of buzz, a lot of attraction. There are a lot of articles, blogs, conferences where digital transformation is talked about, not just in India, across the globe. Of course, digital transformation or DT means different things for different people. I would just like to explain our thought process before we delve deeper into the case study. For us, it is leveraging different digital channels and technologies to launch new products, processes, services, which allow a business to differentiate from competition in terms of existing products or services line, coming up with new innovations from both product offering as well as from the service offering, or in case we are a process-oriented organization, from the process point of view. Second important pillar around digital transformation is it is all about personalized experiences. Gone are the days when we can think about customers. We can think about customers from the same yardstick. Now each and every customer is unique, with a lot of information available to us about existing customers, about new customers, about returning customers. Each one of us as a customer would like to have more personalized experience. Then there are different actors, employees as well as partners, which together form a cohesive business ecosystem, and each one of them expects a personalized experience. We will delve deeper about what do we mean about it, but this is one of the important pillars of digital transformation. And last point, we have a lot of things happening in the physical world. Those are not gone, but digital is taking more and more prominence. But the challenge and the opportunity is how we can seamlessly transfer the experience between physical world and digital world, and how can we make it unique, how we can make it personalized, and together how we can leverage these channels to offer new products or create innovation in existing products. I'll move further. So these are some of the metrics which are gathered by large organizations, research organizations on a regular basis. Most of us might already be aware, but this information, I thought it would be good to put up so that we are aware about the current state of the art and the challenges which we face. So around 40% of the people would abandon a web portal in case it is taking more than 3 seconds to load, be it an e-commerce platform, be it a content, be it a media organization. In case it is taking longer, then people are just spoiled by choices. We would move on to the next similar product or offering or web portal. So is the case around mobile app users. We know that mobility is getting more and more pervasive. There is a tremendous amount of growth in people consuming content or transactions happening on the mobile rather than on desktop or traditional laptops. And 53% of the mobile users will uninstall an app if the experience is not up to the mark. By that, if it is slow, or if it freezes, or people are not able to do whatever they intend to do. It can be a transaction, it can be just consuming the content. If any of these things are not happening to the expectations, then people will just not hesitate to uninstall that application from their mobile system, and it is a big potential loss for the business. Moving on. Couple of things which are very important from a digital transformation perspective: scale and a seamless user experience. By scale, we are building new products, we are taking them to market, but we do not know how it will be perceived. It can start from a very small user base, and if we are in a B2C domain, then it can easily explode from few hundred to few thousands and maybe 1 million users in a very short span of time. And it is really a challenging problem for the business about how to handle the infrastructure and application load with such an unpredictable state. Seamless user experience, we talked about web, we talked about mobile, and we also talked about seamless transition from physical to digital, and all these are challenging factors. As a user, we would like the business to be aware about us from where we left a portal on the web, and we would like the experience to continue in a seamless manner on the mobile or on our tablets, and that intelligence is expected. So, but this is a challenging problem, and we need to address it when we are thinking about an effective digital transformation. Moving on, lot of companies, and these are not the organizations just in India. We are working with a lot of organizations around the globe, and we hear them grappling with such issues and these challenges across the globe, and we do not have easy solutions. It doesn't mean that these are impossible to solve, but these are not very simple and straightforward problems which we have been able to crack and can easily implement their solutions. So talking about our case study, HDFC Mutual Funds, for people who are joining us from India, I suppose most of us would be aware it is the second largest mutual fund in India, and they have a huge user base, they have a huge number of distributors, and they're a very successful business, but they were grappling with all the digital transformation challenges which we just talked about in preceding slides. And HDFC Mutual Fund approached us. They wanted to hear from us what is our thought and what we can do to help them solve these problems and to help them effectively traverse through this digital transformation journey. And next few slides, I'll just share our experiences about how we approached and how we were able to solve some of the issues which were faced by HDFC Mutual Funds. So what were the main problems faced by HDFC mutual funds as a business? In terms of numbers, as I mentioned, it is the second largest mutual fund in India. There have a large number of investors and distributors. From a pure number point of view, more than 2 lakh crore plus funds are there, which are called in mutual fund terminology assets under management. So this is people like me and you who are investing in HDFC mutual funds. The amount is quite high. There are more than 50 lakh plus investors or 5 million plus investors and 50,000 plus distributors spread across the country who help end investors do a better financial planning, help them navigate through different funds and schemes available through HDFC mutual funds. There was absolutely no portal for distributors. So whenever they had to do some transactions on behalf of their investors, they had to use some third-party aggregator tools, which used to take time, which was not easy to navigate. And again, the experience used to take a severe hit. Performance was with there was a portal of sorts available for end investors like many of us, but it was quite slow, so much slow that it used to take sometimes more than a couple of minutes to load a particular transaction or a particular portfolio, and it used to crash frequently whenever there were more users coming on the portal, and it was just few hundred users coming on the portal. It used to have problems of crash or just terribly slow. The entire portal was built a few years back, and perhaps at that time those technologies were state of the art, but because of the very fast change in the technology and the cloud and DevOps space, it kind of became outdated in a short span of time. As a result, whenever HDFC mutual funds wanted to have an increase in the performance, it required long downtimes, it required physical hardware addition, and because certain processes and transactions are seasonal in nature, in order to downsize it was again a manual exercise. All this led to a bad user experience and also suboptimal operational costs. I talked about user experience. That was, one of the major feedback and complaints HDFC mutual fund business owners used to receive both from investors as well as distributors. So in a nutshell, a seamless digital experience was really required, as we understand the mutual fund industry in India is growing because of more and more digital India initiatives, paperless, and more funds to be put in online mode of transactions. This was very much required as a very important business prerequisite for HDFC mutual funds to stay ahead of the competition. And this was the mandate which was given to TTN about how we are going to solve all these problems in a short span of time, and of course with limited budgets. So how did we approach all these issues and challenges? I'll just talk about them one by one, and then explain some of the things more in detail. So we kicked it off, the entire engagement with a design and discovery workshop. It was a 4 weeks exercise where primarily we tried to understand needs of business from different perspectives, from marketing department, from sales people, from operation people. We tried to understand the expectations from distributors and investors. For that, we did a lot of interviews. We talked to real distributors and gave them questionnaire, not just from one particular region, but across the country, so that there is no particular strong bias from one particular geography or area, either from west or north or south. We took a sample and talked to both the distributors as well as investors, along with all the internal stakeholders from HDFC mutual funds. This followed with workshops where we created wireframes, where we created interactive mockups. Again, we ran these mockups through different stakeholders about trying to understand how users are perceiving different journeys. Is it making sense for them? Are they finding it difficult in terms of navigating different steps? And basis that, we kept on evolving the wireframes, the mockups, and workflows before writing even a single piece of code. This 4 weeks workshop, along with different stakeholders, allowed us to have a very good hold over problems, expectations from all the relevant stakeholders, which resulted in overall design strategy along with mockups, and also how HDFC mutual funds will position their next digital set of properties as a unique selling point, and how it will all work together in a cohesive story point of view. Once this entire workshop was over and everybody within the business was on the same page, we started design and development of the real work. But this was an important step for us, because any large organization faces the challenge of a siloed environment, while everybody in a large organization like HDFC mutual funds would like to gain market share, would like business to grow, but they have different expectations and perspectives, and sometimes they are not aligned, and it is a challenge for an outsider organization to get everybody on the same page. And but this 4 weeks workshop, followed by interactive mockups and designs, allowed us to get everybody around the same thought process, and also in terms of setting expectations. So how we started the development, as I mentioned about design and discovery workshop, once that was nearing closure, we put together a cross-functional team, which was coming from the back-end perspective, from the front-end web perspective, from the Android development perspective, from iOS perspective, from operation perspective, from test, and so on and so forth. So it was a cross-functional team which was set up while design and discoveries were getting towards closure. And then we followed an iterative and incremental mode of development. I suppose a lot of people who are from a developer community understand the term agile methodologies very well. There are a lot of implementations of agile methodologies like Scrum, Kanban, and so on and so forth. Concretely, in our case, we used a combination of Scrum and extreme programming. Scrum for managing and breaking down the entire scope of work into small iterations, which we call sprints. For us, it was a 3-week sprint where we kind of vertically broken down the entire product roadmap into small manageable pieces to be done and completed in 3 weeks, where we used to do a little bit of analysis, a little bit of design, code, testing, and deploying, and this continued over the entire journey of design and development. Once multiple iterations were over, at the end of every iteration, and sorry in case it is repetitive for development team community, but just for others, every iteration used to lead to a working software deployment, which was available for different business stakeholders to actually do what the system is intended to be done, provide the feedback, and the entire feedback used to be collated in 2 or 3 working days after the sprint was over, and all these feedback used to be fed back into the product backlog to be taken up as soon as possible in terms of business priorities. And once all these iterations were over and the entire business team of HDFC Mutual Funds was convinced and happy with the entire functional block to be considered good for release to the outside market, we went through a phase of UAT, which is user acceptance testing, where it was released to distributors, a small sample of investors, to just to test it from a more user perspective, from a more functional and experience perspective, and it lasted for a few weeks. And once that phase was over, we went live, and then we followed it up with a small dedicated team which is working towards continuous enhancements around whatever has been built and has been made live for the larger public, along with a small dedicated development team. We also have a separate team which is taking care of the entire infrastructure and applications in the form of 24/7 support, so that we can take care of the scale and availability as per the expectations of HDFC Mutual Fund and customers. They can be distributors, they can be end investors, which ran into millions. So this was overall approach about how we took the entire development from concept to cash, as we say. Moving on, this is a bit technical, but I've tried to keep it high level just to showcase some of the salient features of the solution and how we were able to address some of the challenges. So if I start from the left, these are end users. They may consume all the services which are available either through an Android or through an iOS phone. It can be phone or a tablet, or they can come through a web portal using desktop or laptop. Then we have these web services. These are essentially to ensure that a high level of security is maintained, and there are no chances for breach of confidential information. As we can appreciate, HDFC Mutual Funds has information about not just financial information and transaction of a particular user, but also about a lot of personal information like PAN card, like Aadhaar, and none of that is even thought about in terms of breach. It will be a big blow for any financial institution in case any of this information goes out and can be hacked. So we had a public network which is over here in the web services form, but beyond everything on the right side was under a virtual private network. There were of course a lot of other security controls which we have implemented, which I would not be able to delve deeper into this public forum, but I just wanted to show here that there was an API gateway which was implemented, and then on the right side there are multiple microservices, and on the extreme right these are third-party services. So let me just delve a deep, one step deeper about different microservices. The reason we deployed a microservices-based architecture was to be able to scale different components or modules in an isolated manner. If it is required, we kind of created gateways so that the core of the system continues to function in case any external third-party services are having any disruption or unavailability of the services. Our entire system should not go down just because there are multiple third-party services which are involved. As you can imagine, the entire architecture is deployed on a public cloud. We used Amazon because of very high level of maturity in terms of components, services, availability and durability of different Amazon ecosystem components. And as is the case with any public cloud, it allowed us to have the advantage of pay-as-you-go model, scale up and down in an automated manner. Few points. We integrated with BillDesk, Bill Junction, and PayNemo in terms of allowing people to do transactions without having any manual intervention. CAMS is third-party mutual fund transactional information, which holds transactional information of a lot of investors who are investing not in HDFC mutual funds but in other mutual funds which are available in India. Finance is an application which provides calendar and calculator services. We use Sales Panda for campaign, and there were a lot of other services like KYC, again to automate the entire process. This is a broad snapshot of how the entire architecture of the new platform is laid out. I'll just move on. From a data flow perspective, so these are, in case again a user comes either from web or mobile, we try to separate whatever was static information available through CDNs, so Cloud Delivery Network. So we used Amazon CDN, and again, this part is just a simplified view of the slide which we saw previously, and all these things were running on, are currently running on EC2 servers and use a lot of Amazon as well as industry relational database, which we used for providing faster query mechanism for a large user base. Talking about testing, so both from a web as well as from mobility perspective, testing and ensuring functional behavior as well as non-functional behavior and user experience behavior is not compromised in any form. When we talk about mobility and when we talk about Android, it is a very fragmented ecosystem. It's very difficult to test all the form factors using physical devices for primarily two reasons. It takes a lot of time and you need a whole lot of devices. So we used AWS device farms to be able to test, and we automated the entire testing process as much as possible so that we can get feedback in a very automated and fast manner. We of course use a lot of other tools and technologies like JUnit, Selenium, and mocking frameworks to do isolation level testing along with performance and security testing. But testing was an important asset, so I thought it will be worth putting a slide just to emphasize the importance of testing on the entire development frame. And on the left side we see this guy. This is to emphasize. We use a continuous integration framework, again an open source framework called Jenkins, to be able to manage all our development and testing and then deployment in a seamless manner. Moving on, some of the salient features of the entire architecture. You might have, just connecting the dots. As you could see, there were a lot of services like user service and transaction service, KYC service. So we used a microservices based architecture to provide a unified platform, but also to be able to increase the capacity and capability of one particular component without having an impact on the entire architecture. This led us to have a significant performance improvement as much as from 4 minutes to few milliseconds at the API level. We used Docker containers to manage all these deployments, again, which helped us to minimize errors and also be able to provide rolling updates without having any downtime. And the last but not the least, it helped us increase the concurrency significantly. Earlier it was not even 200 distributors, but we were able to easily scale up to 1,000 distributors with lesser amount of infrastructure involved. DevOps and cloud, these were primarily used in order to achieve faster go-to-market and scale on demand. So DevOps, from an automated test and to continuous integration and continuous deployment point of view, we used Jenkins, we used Docker, we used a lot of other tools to take the work once it is considered done by a developer and by team of developers from in a shortest frame of time. And cloud, once the entire application is running, how we can achieve or leverage the benefits like scale up and down, pay as you go, higher level of security, and use the right tool or component available to achieve different goals. So in case of long durability but less accessible data, we use Amazon Glacier. But in order to have something which is durable and also having more than 5.9 availability, we used Amazon S3. We used Amazon CDN for furnishing static content, and there were a lot of other tools which we used in order to have the best of components available from cloud to build a performant and scalable ecosystem. Loose coupling with third-party vendors. When we started work, there were a lot of tight coupling between CAMS and investor portal. So for easy recall, CAMS is the third-party transactional information holder for a lot of mutual fund investors in India. Because of the tight coupling, in case CAMS changes something, it had a direct impact on HDFC digital properties, and we thought it would not be a good idea to maintain the same. So we broke it down. We had kind of adapter in between, and not just with CAMS, but with multiple other third parties, where we did not had control about their changes and their release cycles and their availabilities, but made different adapters in order to isolate the core of the platform and be in control about its availability and scale in a more robust manner. And this again helped us provide a very stringent SLA to HDFC mutual funds and then to the end customers. All right, just a snapshot in terms of the broad technologies which we used for this Revamped platform across web and mobility. As you can see, all the technologies which we have used are kind of open source, and they are not just open source, they have a long industry shelf life. So we chose carefully different tools and technologies. We did not take anything just because it is the latest fad in the market. We were very appreciative of the fact that we were working for a large financial institution, and it cannot be built on not time-tested technologies, but at the same time, we were also clear that we do not want a very tight vendor lock-in. Even if TTN may not be working, but it should not be that HDFC fund is held in some ways hostage to a proprietary solution, and they continue. It is very expensive for them to come out of it. So it was using Java and Spring and Hibernate on the back end. Lot of HTML5 and CSS3 enabled JavaScript technologies and a lot of time-tested backend technologies to build the entire platform. A recap about what were the challenges. There were multiple stakeholders and owners involved from HDFC Fund's point of view. There was a marketing team, there was an operations team, sales, and of course distributors who were in turn reaching out to a lot of their investors, and each one of them might have different expectations and perspectives. Transactional data, which was coming from CAMS or from other third parties, was done and set up in a way which was considered appropriate by them, but was not in the suitable format for HDFC Fund's customers. So that led to a lot of delays in aggregating information before making it available to the end customer. So we created these adapters. We created so this was one challenge. Sorry, we'll come to the solutions a little later. Lot of data, as we can imagine, more than 5 million investors. So a lot of data, and a lot of people are doing transactions, and these transactions are increasing on a day-to-day basis. And everything had to be in sync in less than 24 hours. So all the transactions on the mutual funds get closed, I suppose, after 3 or 4, and then there is a reconciliation happens at around 6, and the next day, whatever information HDFC mutual fund or for that matter any mutual fund shows on their portal or digital property, it should reflect the truth. And in case there are discrepancies, then it leads to problems. So all those things had to be in sync. And we have, of course, talked about performance and scale with regularly increasing user base. So these were the challenges. I'll just wait for a second for people to have a look. Moving on in terms of solutions, we have talked about it from persona and problem analysis from a design and discovery workshop phase. We followed iterative and incremental development. We had 3 weeks sprint cycles. At times, people feel comfortable with 2 weeks. Some people have 4, but we thought 3 weeks was neither too long to gather feedback, nor too short to be able to showcase something which is tangible and can be appreciated by different stakeholders. This allowed us to get feedback in short cycles and not be further away from what the expectations are. We created intermediate databases or other data structures depending upon the context to isolate us from the changes happening independent of our control and influence on all these third parties, and the major one is, of course, scams. We use caching because of large data at appropriate levels. We use Hazelcast, we use Hibernate cache in order to provide frequently used information earlier, faster, and not be able to do the complete round trip. Where are we after around 6 months in this journey? Distributor portal, which was not at all available, which was built right from scratch, is already live. Investor portal is launched in mid-July. It is currently going through an invite-based model so that we can roll out features and ensure that all the things are as per expectations to the large public or to the large investor base. So it is a phased manner. It is invite-based. The mobile apps, both across Android and iOS, are currently done and developed from our side. They are going through a private beta through a small sample of investors as well as distributors. Again, the graded approach was considered wise, keeping in mind that we have a large base of users and they have been waiting for these things for a long period of time. We would like to be sure whatever is released is up to the expectations and does things which is expected to be done from different users' point of view. Along with this, we are having a dedicated team, again a cross-functional team across Android, iOS, web, backend, and DevOps, which is continuously working to improve the information availability, how to enhance more and more capabilities from transactional point of view. And as we might be aware, Government of India has set a target of 1st of January 2018 to go completely paperless in terms of mutual fund transactions. HDFC Mutual Fund also would like to achieve the same goals earlier than that, and this team is working continuously with different stakeholders from HDFC Mutual Funds to plug all the gaps wherever they are in the entire workflow. As I talked about seamless user experience, so when a user comes over to an investor portal through web, or when he or she downloads the mobile app, and in case he wants to have some information about HDFC Funds, he can go to hdfcfunds.com. The goal is to have a seamless user experience. So we are currently in the process of revamping the entire hdfcfunds.com to provide the information in the same way and not have disjoint experiences. That should also go live in next few weeks. So this is where we stand as of now. These are some of the snapshots about how the new investor portal looks. As we can see, this is the web interface, and these are the mobile interfaces. The web interface, in case any of our audience has already an investment in HDFC Mutual Funds, they can just register themselves and see for themselves as it is live. For mobile apps, once it reaches public, the stage where it is available for the large public, then it would be available. At this point of time, you might not be able to download it from either Apple or Google Play stores. Another snapshot from a distributor point of view. So of course this is only available in case you are a certified distributor of HDFC mutual funds. But we just wanted to share the look and feel is kind of similar from a color scheme, from an information display perspective, but different informations and different view of information for different stakeholders. All right. So this brings me to an end about the entire experience of past 7 months in the digital transformation journey with HDFC Mutual Funds. As it is journey, it continues, and we are very happy and satisfied with the way things have gone, and so we believe our HDFC Mutual Funds, because we continue to do work with them on multiple other initiatives, and we wanted to share our learnings and our challenges, and of course how we approach them. I want to take a few minutes in terms of just our thought process about what is the current state of digital transformation and how it can shape up in coming months. As I mentioned, this age, 24/7 connectivity across devices has changed the rules of business, and is in the process of forcing mid-scale enterprises, large enterprises, and new entrants to transform the way they think about doing business. And it is a large transformation. It is not in a silo. So if we talk about stakeholders, there are 4 stakeholders broadly. In our view, there are of course customers who consume products and services, but whatever services they consume, there is a back-end team around operations making those services available, updating different customers and stakeholders about what is the current state. Then there are people within the enterprises. These are employees who work towards making this product and services available to customers, helping operations team, and lastly are the partners, because no organization is able to do anything completely end-to-end on their own. They rely on partners to complete the offering, and all these 4 pillars of a business enterprise are getting severely or I should say drastically impacted by this new wave of digital transformation, and expectations have changed for all these stakeholders from a customers, and this is something which all of us can relate easily, especially younger generation. We would like to have all information available to us at our fingertip. We do not want to call anybody. We would like to have it available at any point of time, whether it is midnight or 5 o'clock in the morning. We would like to be able to make decisions without waiting for customer service team or sales team to be available, and we would like to be cared. From a people perspective, and people is people who are working as part of the business, they also need to be aware about this information, how the customers are interacting, what kind of things and services they are liking, what kind of services they are not liking, and be able to make more data-driven decisions. In order to achieve those things, they would like to have more and more information about customers, about their demographics, about their gender, about from where they are consuming the content, and so that they can think about and also have an actionable roadmap around personalized and contextual engagements. Thirdly, from the operational point of view, and if I just map it very, very simplistically from an e-commerce organization which is towards delivery of products which we as consumers buy, they would like to have reduction in cost in terms of delivery. They would like to have reduced cost in terms of how the infrastructure is running, so on and so forth. And same is for the partners, so that they can proactively work rather than react. Moving on, 4 elements of digital transformation. There is focus towards insight in terms of operational transformation, in terms of people, how we enable our workforce to be able to cater to all these changes which are required, which are expected from the customers, and how do we, from the outside perspective, how do we roll out new products and services to an ever demanding customer, and how do we system to be working along with us to achieve those results in a timely manner. All these things are possible only when we are able to use the new technologies and ecosystems like cloud and DevOps in an appropriate manner. Otherwise, it just becomes a very uphill task to achieve these goals. All right. Just one, some of the pointers around how it is impacting, this entire wave is impacting across industries in India. So according to a global survey conducted by large enterprise CA Technologies and Goldman Sachs, it is revealed that a lot of firms in India are seeing a great business impact from digital transformation investments, and only 46% of decision makers feel that they are actually making full use of this digital transformation to change the way they are doing business. But wherever people are using digital transformation, journeys or using these levers, they are seeing a significant improvement in their business opportunities. And all these things are publicly available, and there is a URL where people can access it later. The detailed report around digital transformation across industries of different size, scale, and domain in India. Couple of points around us. Who are we? We are a technology company. We are a team of 750 people who have been working around product engineering, around digital transformation across industries of different domains in the globe. We just talked about HDFC mutual funds, but we have worked with a lot of enterprises in last 7-8 years of different size and scale across the globe. We believe that we have some of the key ingredients in order to effectively traverse through digital transformation journey. It starts with user experience, followed by core engineering around web, mobility, and CMS, and then supported by data analytics to be able to make more data-driven decisions and continuously work towards product enhancement. What are the key enablers according to us for digital transformation? Experience design. It can lead to web and mobility and CMS, or it can lead to some of them depending upon the business we are talking about. And all these three things are supported by cloud, big data, and there are new things which are enablers. Internet of Things. A lot of devices are connected and emitting information which we need to capture, and lastly is the microservices, which allow us to have a more plug-and-play kind of architecture around more sophisticated ecosystems which we are in the process of building. This is a snapshot of some of our clients. We talked in detail about HDFC mutual funds. We work with Tata Sky. We have worked with Government of India. We have worked with Viacom 18. We have worked with Dubai Parks and Resorts. So just a snapshot to give you an idea that digital transformation is there for real, and organizations across the globe are adapting according to these needs and figuring out their own transformation journeys. And with this, I come to the end of my presentation, and I think it is time for us to take questions, thoughts, whatever audience members have in mind, and we can take it from there. I'll just open the question tab so that I can take up the questions. Give me a second, please. All right. So first question is from Alok Shukla. Thank you, Alok. The question is DT an umbrella term? Yes, DT is an umbrella term according to us. Of course, as I started with, DT means different things for different organizations, but it is overall combination of different channels which are available to an organization towards faster evolution of their existing services or products, or towards rolling out new services in a shorter span of time. The next question is again from Alok. What are technologies embedded in DT? The answer is it depends. Sorry about being a consultant-like answer, but the fact is that what exactly we are trying to build, what exactly is the business domain, largely decides the technology landscape. I just showcased via the case study where the touch points with the customers were around web and mobility, but in some other cases it can be mobile only. In some other cases it doesn't have to be mobile. What exactly is the thing which we are working on will decide the technology landscape. All right, I'm going through the questions, so give me a bit of time. Which API gateway was used for your project? This is a question from Gary Shah. We used Amazon API Gateway, which is a service again. We use that. There is another question which is coming from Inderjeet. For messaging, which platform have you used? By messaging, I suppose you mean messaging between different components of the ecosystem. So we used Amazon SQS, which is again highly available and fault tolerant component for our internal messaging between different components. There are a lot of questions coming. I'll try to answer as much as I can, but please be patient. To access the digital readiness of HDFC Mutual Fund, and how did you arrive at the conclusion that the execution model you adopted is the correct one for them? In terms of digital readiness of HDFC Mutual Funds, we talked to a lot of senior decision makers within HDFC Mutual Funds that went all the way till CEO of HDFC Mutual Funds, and we had different set of questions and thoughts based upon our previous experiences to understand whether HDFC Mutual Funds as an organization is ready to take up this large initiative. And basis that, again, it is kind of an empirical mode. We thought an iterative and incremental mode of development where we do not have all the answers, but at the thought process, more or less people are in sync, would be the best approach. In how many days were you able to complete this project? This is again a question from Gary Shah. Broadly, I would say this was a team which peaked at around 35 people at the max strength. It was a cross-functional team, and we worked from the pure development perspective for a little more than 3 months. So you can just do the math. 35 cross-functional team into 20 man days. Was migration to cloud part of the existing project? HDFC project is a question from Srini. Yes, it was. It was running on a private data center of HDFC Mutual Fund. It was third-party data center. I would not be able to name it because of confidentiality reasons, and we migrated it to AWS. Of course, it is not 100% public cloud because there are a lot of third parties which we use, and they may or may not be on the public cloud, but we opened corresponding tunnels to ensure the security, but also connectivity from AWS over to all these third-party ecosystems. Ravi Chinta had a question around what is the team size, development, testing, analysis, etc. I think I have answered this question. It was a cross-functional team of full-stack developers and also front-end developers, Android, iOS, visual designers, usability experts, and user research people. What were some of the challenges faced from the product owners during the agile development process? This is a question from Soumya Nandi. Thank you, Soumya. The challenges are typical challenges which a large organization faces when they are challenged to deliver something in a matter of weeks as compared to in matter of months or years. They are mostly used. And thinking from small iteration perspective, not get stuck in analysis paralysis and trying to divide a large functionality or a feature into small achievable goals in a span of in a time frame of 2 to 3 weeks. That was one of the biggest challenges and recurring challenge which we face when we work with large enterprise. Which CMS is used? So Meeta is asking which CMS is being used for DG assets. If I understand the HDFC, if the question, I'm not sure about the question, but if it is more from HDFC mutual funds, we would be using Drupal 8. We are currently building that. It is yet in development, but from the digital assets, if it is a question, then we used Amazon CloudFront for storing our static resources. Okay, another question. We all have been talking, and this is from Anukul Singhal. We all have been talking about digital transformation in India, but realistically, how do you see the role of chatbots in this journey and how mature these bots are likely to become? Moreover, how do you see mass consumer habits changing towards accepting this change in India and Middle East regions? Long question. I'll try to answer. Chatbots, they play a role. In my opinion, they don't play an integral role, but definitely a role. These bots, according to us, are becoming more and more mature. IBM has recently launched a bundled SaaS version of Watson at a very competitive prices. And how do I see mass consumer habits changing towards accepting this change? I think this digital transformation is driven actually by consumer behavior. It is not something which has come from more business. It has come more from consumers. Consumers are asking more and more innovation, more and more information available on demand, more power, and we are kind of reacting to that rather than the other way around. Is social analytics part of DT? Sunil Rama Rao has asked this question very much, and it is very, very integral part of any digital transformation project, in my opinion. The reason being, from a social point of view, everybody is coming through either Facebook or Instagram or Google+. We need to be able to have that kind of connectivity and be able to analyze the channels from which people are using, and analytics allows us and different product owners and business stakeholders to have more and more data-driven decisions. I guess we have only one. We have time for only one last question, and I just see what was the volume of data transformation and migration at HDFC MF project? This is a question from Stephen Balls. I hope I'm pronouncing your name properly. Stephen, so data transformation, the data size is at this point of time more than 500 GB, but it is continuously growing, and I'm talking only about the transactional information about all the investors. This is a continuously growing data, and as more and more investors come on board and more investors do a lot more transactions, we will have this data growing, and we have a projection of this data growing to more than 1 terabyte in few months from now. This is all I have to be able to answer. I'm sorry I've not been able to answer all the questions. Thank you very much for your time. With this, I hand it over back to Sabha. Thank you very much for being moderator and patient with me throughout this last 1 hour.
Thank you so much, Narinder, for this really important and motivating session today. I would also like to thank all our participants for making this webinar a great success. This session has been recorded, and the recording will soon be available on techgig.com. Thank you everyone for joining us.